Hi all. Hope you all are doing good. So as a part of this video, we are trying to build a series of video, right? So we will be focusing to get the problem statement from LeetCode and we'll be trying to solve them using Databricks, right? So when it comes to Databricks, right, we have a complete playlist where we have seen it already, like how we can set up the environment, right? How we can create the Azure account, how we can create the storage account, how do you create a Databricks cluster, how do you integrate storage and Databricks cluster, how do you read the data using reader API and writer API and all that, right? We have explored all those in the playlist, right? So now here our aim is to focus on lead code problems, right? So those who are new to let code, those who don't know what is let code, I thought, okay, let's give you some background. Okay, what is let code? Actually, we have uh, many coding platforms available, right? Which generally companies use for doing their interview process, right? So if you see, we have different platforms like we have learning platforms like W3 School is mostly being used right earlier, but nowadays it is not much used. But yeah, this is the most common uh, I mean quick syntax learning platform that most developers use, right? So we have learning platforms, right? We have coding platforms like HackerRank, LeetCode and all that, right? So we have competitive programming platforms where we do competitive programming contests, right? So likewise like Codeforce, CodeSafe and Hardcoder, right? We have all these platforms for competitive programs. Similarly, we have for SQL practices, right? Platforms. We have DataLamer, SQL Boot, HackerRank, LeetCode, and all that. For project-related platforms, we have Kaggle and GitHub that you all know, right? So there are many platforms, right, which you can explore. But specifically, why we are focusing on LeetCode, right? This is the platform, right? Generally, it's being given while doing the interview for data engineers, right? You will be given this platform and you are being asked to solve one problem, right? So this is the most commonly used platform where you will be using during the interviews, right? So that is the main purpose of using this platform, right? So before that, let's understand, okay, why only LeetCode we are trying to choose, right? So when it comes to LeetCode, right, it has thousands of problems based on algorithms and databases and array list and all that, right? It has multiple problem statements available in this one, and we need to be solving those problems, right? So which is basically being asked in the uh, interview for different product based companies, right? So now if you see, it is a trusted by top companies worldwide for interview preparation. This platform is being trusted by all the top companies here, right? Like Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and all that, right? So they use this platform to conduct their interviews where we'll be having questions and we'll be given problem statement to solve, right? So here in this platform, right, we'll be having the problem statement with different categories, like where we'll get easy, medium and hard type of questions from databases and algorithms and all that, DSS and all. But we'll be mainly focusing on that database part since it is going to be specifically targeting for our data engineering series, right? So it has different categories of questions that we can focus. It is not going to just only focus on the syntactic thing. It is the questions that we'll get from this platform will help us to build our logical thinking, going to cover all the edge cases that is being used in the real time, right? So it is going to be having all those kinds of questions like where we'll get to build our thought process. It's just not going to learn the syntax. It is going to give us some problem statement where we'll be building our thought process, right? So it is mostly being used by data engineers, whether you work in relational database or you work in a distributed computing platform like Databricks and all that distributed computing, right? So whether you work over a distributed platform or like you work on a relational database system, right? The concept will remain same because it is going to be finally playing with the data, right? So it is most preferred for data engineers and data warehouse developer, ETL developers, and all that, right? So generally, this platform help us build the right mindset to solve the real business problems with data, right? It will be having a lots of questions where if you solve right, you'll be building your thought process like, okay, like how we can solve the problem. So it has many SQL questions which will be going to easier for us to be translated into PySpark and DataFrame API, right? So since we are going to mainly focus on this Azure database platform for our, all the practice, since it has SQL question, it is going to be useful for us, right? So it has wide range of SQL problems that reflect real world scenarios, right? Whatever we are going to do in the real time, similar kind of question concepts will be covered in these questions that is being available here. It has almost more than 4,000 post problems, including a rich collection of SQL and database problems, right? So there are multiple questions available on this platform. Though we have many other platforms, since it is being more popularly used, we are going to use this platform, right, for our problem solving uh, questions, right? So which will be taking from this platform. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So when it comes to LeetCode, right, let's try to understand what is LeetCode, right? So it's an online platform curated with 100 plus curated programming and SQL problems that we discussed, right? So which help improves the problem solving, logical thinking, and coding skills, right? So now, why companies use LeetCode, right? It's a fair way to evaluate all candidates, test real problem solving ability, focus on logic, not just the memorization power, right? That's what we are discussing. So uh, the questions that we get it from here, right? It will be able to solve your if you are trying to solve those, you'll be able to build your thought process over like how in real time problems are being solved, right? So now why you should focus on it as a data engineer, right? So you write codes every day, right? Whether you build ETL pipelines, do transformation, extract loads, and whatever the stuffs that we'll be doing, right, in the real time as data engineer. So all those questions that we'll be getting it from this platform will help us to build our thought process, right? So now if you see what are the skills that we'll build with the LeetCode, right? So we'll build the thought process of being problem solving skill, logical thinking, pattern recognition, data structures, algorithms, code optimization, edge case handling, and time and space complexity. So all this kind of skills we are going to build once we are going through this series, right? So now when it comes to data engineering, you are going to focus on PySpark programming, right? So what are all things that we'll be covering is it will be having SQL joins and aggregation concept that we'll be covering, Windows functions that we'll be covering as part of the questions, right? So we'll be covering cities, subqueries, date and time problems, ranking and running totals. So we'll be having duplicates and consecutive records, PySpark and SQL problems, and data transformation logic. How specifically we'll be focusing on this part. So as we understand, like, okay, what is LeetCode first of all now, right? So I hope most of you know what is LeetCode, but those who do not know, it is just for them, right? So as we know, what is the platform now we are going to explore over our series, right? So I'll just try to give you a walkthrough of the website LeetCode, right? So let's go to LeetCode, right? Just go to Google and just type LeetCode, right? We're just going to land in this. I have logged in already. That's why we just got into, we landed in this page, right? This is the home page of this LeetCode, right? So here, our main intention is we are going to solve the problems, right? So we'll be going to that tab, right? So this is how the interface looks like once you log into the LeetCode platform. So it will be having lots of question as you see here, right? There's lots of question defined, right? So like as you can see here, we have multiple filters. We need to know like how to play with this website, right? So these are different filters that we have it already available in the top. Whichever, like since we'll be focusing on mostly database problem as a part of this series, we need to go to the database. And okay, once we come to this database, right, we'll be seeing like you see some of the questions are easy, some of them are medium level of complexity, and few of them will be hard, right? So we'll be solving all of them. We'll be touching all of these categories, easy, medium, and hard. Okay. And if you see few of the questions that you see in the log is going to be right. Like for these questions, we need to be buying a subscription. Then only we'll be able to get all these questions. But anyway, for just to start with, whatever is freely available, we'll start with that. And later on, once we are done with a good amount of problem solving, right? Then we'll come to this. But for now, we'll be focusing on easy, medium, and hard, which is available without the premium membership, right? So if you see, we have we can play around with the filters, right? As we can see, like we have different categories of questions, right? So if you see here, we have filters as well. So we can sort it based on, we can just filter based on what is the status, right? To do attempted and solved. That we are not going to do it in this platform anyway. We are just going to use our database platform, right? So you can see if you wanted to look for only easy questions, that you apply filter there, right? Then you just go here, you will be seeing only easy questions, right? All these questions are from database, as you have put a filter over here, and easy. Similarly, we can put any filter. You can just play around with this filters, right? So hard, you can see the question which is of hard category, right? So this is how we are going to explore this website to get the questions, and we'll be solving the problems using the Databricks platform, right? So just to give you an example, if I click on this one, right? So it will be having the question here in the left hand side, right? It will be having question in the left hand side. It will explain what is the input data, what is the output data, and all that it will explain. And in the right side, we can solve the problem. But here we are not going to solve here using our SQL. We'll be using our Databricks platform, right? There we will be writing the code using Spark SQL and DataFrame API style of the programs, and we'll be solving the same problem, right? So that we'll understand, okay, how we are trying to solve this problem statement using our PySpark, right? So hope you got an idea of this platform now, what we are trying to do in this series, and what is this platform and why we have chosen this particular LeetCode, right? So going forward in our next videos, we'll be building, we'll be seeing like how we can create the data sets like that is given here, right? We are seeing the data sets. So but we are not going to uh, copy paste the data sets here, because with this platform it is already available, these tables and all that. But since we are going to do it in our Databricks, right, this all will not be there. So we need to create this first of all, right? So we need to set up the data first, then we'll be solving the problem, right? So in the next video, we'll be seeing like how we can set up this data first using our Spark Data Frame Reader API, Spark Data Frame API and our Spark SQL, right? we'll set up the data first, then going forward, we'll be solving the problem one after the other, right? So this is what the plan is for now, right? So we'll see you in the next video, and we'll be exploring more such let code question, and see you there. Thank you all.